What's up, y'all? It's Jelly. So I was just thinking, there's pretty much a process that I go through mentally and that I went through mentally when I was trying to crack down on my finances and figure things out. And it helped me a lot. And it's super, common sense. It's not like rocket science. It's not super difficult or anything like that. But I think from the people that I've talked to who went through the same process of like thinking and looking through your finances and the same thing I did, like it changes the game if you're looking to change your situation financially. So I know so many people who are living paycheck to paycheck or barely paycheck to paycheck. Like you're not even making it to paychecks. You're dipping into your credit cards or dipping into payday loans or advances or whatever that is. Like so many people in that perpetual cycle and just can't seem to make ends meet and just feel like they're stuck. And I think that this process of thinking or these kind of steps that I go through will kind of help with that if you haven't already done them already. And so if you have, I feel like there are more steps to talk about. There are more things that we can talk about, like your mindset with money. There's just more. But for the baseline, I feel like these steps will help people work through their finances. So the first step that I have written down is audit yourself. So this sounds super simple, but I'm telling you, from every person who I've talked to so far, while trying to post financial literacy content and trying to help people, this step has been a game changer for me and for those people. And so audit yourself. And what do I mean by audit yourself? I mean so if you use a bank account or a bank card or whatever, you can go through your statements, or for a month you can look through your receipts, or however you can find the money, find records of the money that you've been spending. I want you to go through your statement and literally look at every single, if you have just a bank account that you use, go through it and look at every single charge that's up there. Like every dollar that comes out of that account, I want you to go through it and I want you to write it down. You might be like, hey, Jelly, that's crazy. Why would I write down something that's already in my statement? It's a mental thing. I literally want you to see it on a piece of paper that you wrote. Every single charge, right? After you write down every single expense that you had come out of your money for that month, I want you to go through and mark every single one that it was unessential. So by unessential, anything that's your baseline, not your baselines of living. So your rent, your gas, your transportation, your light bills, your loan payments, whatever those kind of expenses are. Anything that's not that, I want you to circle it. And after you go through all of those and circle those, I want you to total it up and write that number down. I have not found one single person who was not shocked by that number. Now, there are some people in situations where the numbers are, their money is super, super tight and that number might not be super large. But for somebody who's already living paycheck to paycheck, seeing whether it be 40, 50, 60, 70, I have seen cases where it was hundreds of dollars that you did not know or you didn't kind of realize was coming out of your account or realize you were paying for every month. Seeing that number written down and seeing those numbers circled and whatever the costs were, Netflix or Starbucks or whatever it is, seeing that next to a figure that you wrote down on a piece of paper, it changes the game for you mentally. And then you always, if you're not shocked by that number, if you do this and you're not shocked by that number, let me know, because you're an angel, because I haven't met somebody who that wasn't the case. So after you audit yourself, right, you wrote down all your expenses and you figured out which one of those where money was kind of like falling through your pocket, I want you to crack down. And I wrote down crack down to the bone, because I want you to crack down to the bare bones of what it will take for you to have a living, right? So those expenses I talked about earlier, your rent, your car, your gas, your baseline, or maybe don't even write down groceries because that's flexible, but write down the baseline expenses for everything that you have. And I want you to write down that number. So say you wrote down your rent, your car payment, your loan, your credit cards, everything that you absolutely have to pay, and that number was $1,500. Now you know that's the goal. At minimum, and when I'm talking about budgets, I always say that your money in has to be greater than or equal to the money out. So this money out number, that number that you just wrote down with all your expenses, $1,500, you have to figure out a way to make your income be greater than or equal to that number. And this is kind of like a backwards process of thinking, right? Most of us, we go out, we make a living and find a number, and then we're like, oh, based off of that number, let's base off our expenses. But no, I want you to figure out what's the bare minimum if you're trying to get out of your financial stress, financial rabbit hole that you're in. Find that basic number of what you need to get by, and then think about, okay, am I making this much, right? So if you look at your income and you're not making that $1,500 of baseline expenses, that means all of that money that you're spending outside of that, say you wrote down $300 earlier for those expenses that you didn't need, that means you're spending $1,800 that month. And if you're not making $1,500, where is that $300 coming from? It's coming from a rabbit hole of debt. It's coming from a rabbit hole of something, but it's not coming from where it's supposed to be coming from, which is the money you have actually coming in through your income. So you wrote down the expenses, the $1,500. Now you're looking at your income. You're figuring out, do you make that much? If so, that's your budget. If you only make $1,500, you need to write down all those expenses. You need to write down your income, have them all in a list, categorized together, equals 0, because that's where you're at right now. And if you're trying to get out of that cycle of only making enough to make a living, now you need to figure out how to increase that $1,500 that you have coming in so that you'll have more money to actually get out of that cycle. So there's other ways outside of increasing that income. You can crack down on those expenses, even those bare bone expenses. You could be moving to a cheaper place. You could be getting a cheaper car. You could be cracking down on your gas payment, cracking down on your light payment, cracking down on your food bill or whatever expenses that is. That will help you bridge the gap or kind of create a gap so that you're not in that cycle of only making what you bring or only making enough to pay your bills. You're doing a little bit more than that so you can actually have money to save. You can actually have money to improve your situation. So you audited yourself. You found out what money was slipping through your fingers, if any. Then you crack down to the bones and find out how much money you need to live to make it through the process, day-to-day life. And then you compare that to how much money you have coming in or how much you need to have coming in so that you can either stop being in deficit. So say you have $1,500 worth of baseline expenses and you're only making $1,200. You got to figure out how to get that to at least $1,500 to get that bare minimum of survival down. And then after that, you need to be figuring out either how to decrease that $1,500 that you have coming out. So crack down on your expenses, get things as cheap as they can be. Moving to a smaller place, moving to a smaller city, cracking down on gas payments, cracking down on your grocery bill, turning off all the lights that you can to make your bill cheaper, whatever it is, so that you can start making more than your means, right? So making more than the money that you need to survive. And that way, that money is going to getting you out of this situation, this cycle. So yeah, that's my little spiel. So let's audit yourself, crack down to the bone expenses. The third is compare your income, and then fourth is make a plan to get out of that situation. So figuring out whether you can decrease your expenses, how you can increase your income, and then figuring out what that extra money that is, what that extra money more than the money that you have to be paying bills is going to go towards so that you can better your situation. If you have any questions about that very long-winded spiel about my process of thinking that I help people through when they're looking at their finances, please DM me or comment and we can talk about it. We can talk about it on the phone or whatever you need to do. So yeah, I hope that helps somebody, and I will talk to you soon.